I remember the first time I saw them cry. Not out of pain or fear, but confusion, like the world itself didn't make any sense. Their eyes didn't adjust to the light correctly. Their limbs trembled, but not from weakness. Something deeper was wrong. We thought bringing them here would fix it. We thought Earth would heal them. We were so very wrong. They were born aboard the Daedalus, the first long-term deep space research vessel to simulate gravity through manipulation of localized gravity fields, an experiment in redefining what was once only a theory. No spinning wheels, no rotation-induced illusions. This was real gravity, harnessed, programmed, measured in concentric layers, each pod on the ship set to a slightly different gravitational strength, gradually adjusting the body to a mimicry of Earth's G without the centrifugal dance. By the time I arrived on Earth with them, I was close to 50. Not old by today's standards, but ancient compared to the children. My bones ached in ways they never did up there, and sometimes, in sleep, I could still feel the pressure shift, like the gravity field was still recalibrating beneath my skin. The engineers said that was psychosomatic. I wasn't so sure. The children, though, they were a different matter entirely. They were born in the lower G pods, where the simulated field was set to roughly 0.8 Earth gravity, enough to encourage muscle growth, bone density, without overtaxing the circulatory system. The intent was noble: prepare the next human generation for a life among the stars. But none of us knew. No one truly understood that gravity doesn't just hold down flesh and bone. It holds the soul in place too. The anomalies started on the first day of their relocation to Earth. The medical team noticed it before I did. Subtle things. Reflexes delayed by a beat. Pupils that constricted too slowly in sunlight. The oldest, Ava, nearly 6, reported that her shadow felt wrong. I thought she meant the angle, maybe the direction of the light. But then she added, "It keeps moving when I don't." I watched her in the garden that evening, standing perfectly still, while her shadow twitched slightly to the left, as if catching up to her. I told myself it was the wind, some trick of the sun slipping behind clouds. But the sun wasn't moving. At night, they couldn't sleep. The gravity here pressed against them differently, too heavy in the wrong places, too still in others. Jasper, the youngest, would wake screaming, clutching at his arms, saying they were buzzing. Not in pain, but as if something inside them was loose and trying to remember how to settle. Then came the mirrors. They avoided them at first. If they caught a glimpse of themselves suddenly, they would flinch, sometimes scream. It wasn't vanity or fear. It was recognition that took too long. Ava stood before the hallway mirror one evening and tilted her head slowly, her gaze not quite matching her reflection. "I don't think that's me," she said. I laughed nervously. "Of course it's you." "No," she whispered. "She's slower." That night I watched her reflection closely after she left the frame. For a moment, I swear it lingered a heartbeat too long before vanishing. The doctors said it was psychological dissonance, the result of neural development in a low-G environment. Their sensory systems interpreted space, light, and time differently. They were recalibrating, adapting. But you don't adapt when your own shadow moves independently. That's not biology. That's something else. I started to track their behavior in a journal. Everything from diet to sleeping pattern to how long it took each of them to mentally register objects in space. Over time, I noticed a pattern. Their perception of down was inconsistent. Drop a pencil, and Ava would reach for it midair, as if expecting it to hover. Jasper would turn his head when someone walked behind him, half a second too early, as if hearing them before they moved. It got worse when they were alone. They began to complain of a presence, not voices or ghosts, not anything so concrete, just an awareness, a pressure. They would say it felt like someone was stepping into the room behind them, but when they turned, no one was there. I experienced it too, eventually. You'd walk into a room and feel gravity shift, not all over, but in a single spot, like the floor grew heavier beneath your feet, pulling you toward an invisible center. It was as if something had followed them here, something shaped by the artificial fields aboard the Daedalus, and now unattached, untethered, confused by Earth's natural pull. Then, 3 weeks after our return, Jasper disappeared for 11 minutes. He was there, playing blocks in the living room. I turned to answer a call in the kitchen. When I came back, he was gone. No doors open, no sound, nothing. Just gone. My heart stopped. I searched everywhere, under furniture, closets, the garden. Nothing. I called emergency services, but then, 11 minutes later, he was back. No sound. He just appeared, sitting exactly where I had left him. But the blocks were now stacked differently, geometrically perfect, balanced on points, arches that should have crumbled. He looked up at me and said, "It's different under." "What's under?" I asked. He paused. "I think I fell between." That night I checked the ship logs. The artificial gravity fields had always been unstable in Pod 3. Unpredictable surges, microfluctuations, nothing dangerous on record, just noise. Or so we thought. But if gravity is a force, and we now know it can be shaped, what happens when it's shaped incorrectly? What happens when it's bent in ways space was never meant to accept? These children weren't born under Earth's gravity. They were born in a simulation. And now, in the real thing, their bodies didn't know what to trust. Their minds didn't either. The final proof came when I installed a surveillance camera in the hallway mirror, just to see. I watched hours of footage. Nothing. Then, one night, at precisely 03:17 a.m., the reflection moved. There was no one in the hall, but in the mirror, a child-sized figure walked slowly past the frame. Pale, faceless, and barefoot. A frame later, it was gone. I showed the footage to the Research Council. They called it a rendering glitch, compression artifacts, anything to preserve the illusion that everything was still under control. But I knew these children had seen something in that artificial field, or perhaps something had seen them through that warped gravity that pulled space in ways evolution never accounted for. Maybe it didn't recognize Earth's pull when it got here. Maybe it's still trying to find them. The children are older now, teenagers, detached, quiet. In class, they never quite seem to touch the world. Chairs creak when they sit, but not from weight. Almost from a slow settling, like their bodies press into space differently. Birds avoid them. Dogs whimper when they're near. Last month, Ava asked if she could go back. To space. To the Daedalus. She said she misses the feeling of being held evenly. I didn't understand at first until she explained, "Here, gravity bites in places. Up there, it cradled." I told her that wasn't real gravity. She smiled. "Neither is this. They speak less and less now. But sometimes, when I pass the rooms at night, I hear them humming. Not songs, but single tones. Low and droning, like tuning forks. resonance, trying to realign with something lost or something calling. I'm afraid they'll leave again one day, not in a ship. Just disappear. Like Jasper had, only for longer. Maybe forever. Maybe to that place between. I don't know if they'll fall into it or if it will rise to meet them. What I do know is this. There are rules to gravity we don't understand. And when you create it artificially, you might be creating more than just force. You might be opening a door